Hey everybody, William Xavier. Thanks for joining, coming back for session 2 of the Caribbean Cruise album that I'm putting together. I'm trying to think of a neat little name to kind of call this session. Not sure what I'm going to call it yet, but at some point I'll figure that out. But like I said, thanks for joining. We're going to move ahead with the second layout, which is going to be a double page spread using the Creative Memories Virtual Crop Sketch from December 2025, number 2. And what I'm going to do is just mirror that on both sides. And it's a pretty straightforward sketch where we just have a couple of elements to cut and put together with our photos. We can see we've got a 4x12 side border paper here, then our main base paper all together. We've got a 2" by 12 border, as well as a paper underneath that border. We've also got an 8x6 inlay mat for these photos as well. And of course, title and embellishments. And so I've already gotten my photos prepped and ready. So we're going to put together these pages. Again, going to be using that ripped paper technique, using the Creative Memories tearing tool, peaks and valleys. So I've got all my stuff. I've got my box, project box here. So we're going to open this up. So I'm going to get the title page, which I was able to finish last night after the video. I finally found Mexico. There's Mexico. And here's the truly finished page. I may come back later and do a little inking around the Western Caribbean on the Western Caribbean title, just to be able to give it a little more depth and pull a bit more off of this pretty busy print. I feel like it gets a little lost there, but that'll be a little touch up later on that I do. But I need this because I'm going to continue on the other side. What I also need, I will need another page, and I had already gone ahead and kind of completed the third set of pages using a different layout that I'm not going to be making a video for, only because it's somebody else's layout, and they have instructions for it. But I will highlight that in the final video that I will put walking through the whole album as well. So I just need the other side of that page as well. See, I got that going. So I'm going to need that also. And then I'm going to flip into, here are my supplies. Here's what I need for these pages. Pull them out. And I can set my box aside now. Okay. I can start to get a little organized here. Okay. So the idea here, and I'll dry fit this to give you all an idea of what we're gonna do real quick with this sketch, because I prepped one page pretty much, but I'm using a print from the best gradient pack. Let me grab that real quick. Thought I had it handy. Sorry, folks. All right, here we go. The Black Gradient Best Hits. This was part of a Paper Buffet promo earlier in the beginning of the year, I believe, of 2025, that came with an additional paper pack that was Best Gradient Rainbow Prints, which I'll probably use some of that in a later layout with some of the sunset pics that I have. But I pulled one of the prints from here because working with what I had in the other collections, I was at first thinking using browns and the hot fudge cardstock for my punches. Putting it all together, it still just wasn't really fitting for me because I'm using this kind of coral print from the Paradise Found collection, and eventually I landed on using cool gray to be my punch color, and so I then moved to looking for gray print, and the one that I landed on was from that Black Gradient Best Hits pack. So this is essentially going to be that 4-inch side, because then we're going to have that bottom border strip, the top border strip, and then we're going to have the inlay. And this inlay is from the Tropic Time tone-on-tone paper pack. And so that's going to inlay here as well, and the pictures will go here. I have yet to kind of decide on a title. I think I know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to kind of hold off on the title right now. Sometimes I like to do that. I'll write it down on a sticky note for myself. I'll have just a running sticky note of titles, and then when I go back to my Cricut, I can then Cricut more, all my titles at once or in batches, and then go back and adhere them where I want them. So I will intentionally leave that space on my pages for that. Okay, so we're gonna construct all of this now. So let me get some of this out of the way. So we're going to start with our tears, and the easiest one I'm going to start with is the additional 2-inch strips that I'm going to need for the other side that will go with the borders. And then we'll do the 4x12. So what I did was aligned up my paper, got my tearing tool, put my paper through the tearing tool on the top. So now I just align up my paper again here to the edge. So I'm getting these corner edge pieces to that edge there. And then I'm going to slide my tearing tool 2 inches in on my mat here. Getting them as straight as I can. There's always something about 2 inches to me that always looks a bit bigger than I think it is or should be. And that's just what that is, I guess. Okay, I think that's good. So then again, right, I'm going to lift up, kind of give myself a little room there. And then I'm going to, again, right, lift up and over to the right to get that clean tear with this tool. And I'm just going to keep going in chunks here, because I kind of want a bit of a controlled tear. I don't want to just come tearing straight up and down. I want to get these little details of these ridges in there really well. So that's one. And then I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to shift this a bit, bring this to the edge, only because it's just really easier to find my marks, bringing it over to the edge. I don't have to keep sitting there thinking, wait, what's 2 more inches? because, you know, numbers, I don't know. They confuse me at times. That's why I'm not an accountant. Okay, I think that's pretty straight. Okay. And again, you just tear up and over. There, I got my 2 strips. So out of the 4 total, I still have about a 4-inch strip to work with later on in other layouts. Now we'll do our 4x12 piece. So with this, using a full untouched sheet, right? What I'm going to, I only have to make 1 tear, which is what's nice about this part. I only have to do this once. Now, if I'm working with other scraps, I may have to do it more than once. But since I'm using a full 12x12 sheet, I haven't used this in any other way. All I have to do is just make 1 tear, and then I'm going to trim to size the bigger piece, because I'm going to come in at that 4-inch mark. Paper's a little off there. I think that's pretty straight. It just doesn't look fully straight to me, but I think it is. If I haven't mentioned before, I'm also spatially challenged, so it's an interesting hobby at times, because what I think is, isn't, or what I think will be, doesn't. But in the end, I figure out how to make it work anyway. Which is all we really do in life, isn't it? Oh, I think so. So now I'm ready to tear again, up and over, because I really kind of want to keep that nice tight tear to the tool. You may hear a cat in the background. She's not dying. She's just really excited and playing and running around. And that's our little Bella. Fun story. She was a rescue from the outside wilderness. We had a mama cat the one year living under our deck. And then she had her babies. And so we were able to get Mama, which is now her name, Mama, and 2 of her kittens in. We never found the 3rd. Bella was actually, at first we only got Mama and 1 kitten in, and then I was out fiddling with potting some plants for the summer, and I heard this creature out in the back. We have some woods behind us. It sounded like she was dying. And I'm like, do you guys think that's another one of the kittens? And lo and behold, we go back there, and yep, it was one of them. So she and she had some eye infections, so we had some antibiotic ointment that we were from the vet that we were able to use to clear that up. So she got named Bella Grace because kind of following in line with the hymn Amazing Grace, right? She was lost and then found, was blind and then could see. So she's Bella Grace. She literally at times will make sounds like Gizmo from Gremlins. So that's what you might hear in the background from time to time. Okay. So we've got our 4-inch piece for one side. We're going to make the other cut for the other side. So I should really have an 8-inch piece here, roughly, after cutting, right? So what I can do is bring this here down to 4. And make my cut. And I will still have a clean edge, because I'm going to use my straight blade. I'll still have a clean edge to use for scraps with this paper. All right, awesome. Put that aside. So next, we need to get our borders put together. So I'm using the luggage punch here, which came out, I want to say maybe 2023, maybe 2024, part of the Wanderlust collection, I believe. So it's not currently available. And then I'm also going to use Cityscape on the bottom half. Cityscape was an older punch from I think 2017 or so, and then it was a bring back this year in 2025, and has since sold out. So definitely check with advisors, your favorite advisor, or even me, to see if we have any on hand that we were able to snag before they went bye-bye. So I've got my luggage punch for the one. I'm going to use Cityscape for the other. So I'm going to get my silicone mat, my repo tape, and we're going to just start going to town. On that one. And, okay, I'm just going to line it up a bit here. Because I really do kind of want this to be in the middle. So the bottom edge is kind of going to hit at that 1.5 inch from the top mark. And here, I already know with this punch there's a little overlay, or it's a little bit longer, so I'm just going to come in with scissors, trim that excess off. Next I have my Cityscape, and what I decided to do with that one is to use a decorative blade and my trimmer, because it is an edger border. So I have to cut this off. So I decided to use decal because you could, I felt that the decal kind of mimics a torn edge. Get a good view of that here somewhere. So decal, and if you have the older blade, Victorian would be another option that you might think would work for a torn edge. Another one that might be a good one is the newer Rhythm. I think would also be a nice one that mimics a torn type of edge. But I'm going with decal. So I'm going to bring the edge of that paper to the 1/4 inch mark on the trimmer, which is where the trimming mat meets the trimmer. and then I'm going to cut. You might have to press a little bit harder, especially with decal, on some papers, just to get it to cut through a little. Sometimes those decorative blades need a little extra push to cut through. Then I'm gonna swap out just to make sure. That's just one of my quirks. I always keep my straight blade in so I don't accidentally start cutting with a decorative edge when I don't want to. Okay. And then we'll get some repo tape on here. And kind of the same idea. I'm going to bring this up here. I'm going to get my edge to be around that 1.5 inch from the top mark. Roughly, not as a hard and fast rule there. And then just have that be as straight as I can. Whoops. There we go. This also will have a little nub to trim off. Okay. So now I've got my borders ready. I just have to make that last inlay cut to put everything together. So get my trimmer again. So I need an 8x6. And this is something that you'll want to pay attention to because when you're using patterned paper, you can kind of see this has a lined pattern here. The other side wouldn't necessarily matter which way I came in and cut because it kind of had an overall pattern that was just very, it's very open. But when we've got linear type patterns, we want to be very, very careful about how we do these cuts. Because I did miscut yesterday night, prepping the other one. So just pay attention to that. I wanted the stripes to be going horizontal. So what I had to do with my 12x12 paper at first, I was doing the 6-inch cut. I had to flip it so that the lines were horizontal, do my 6-inch cut, and then I can do my 8-inch cut, which I'm going to do now. And I will have the horizontal lines. So just a little tidbit, always pay attention to your pattern papers before you start cutting. So we've got that all set now. We're ready to start assembling our pages. So we'll start with the left. We'll get all of our components here. All right. So first off, I'm going to put my 4x12 down, make sure I've got my page in the right orientation. I have totally done that before, where I went and put my layout all together, only to flip it over and realize, the other side's upside down. Awesome. So always check that too. Oops. I've got a little bit of a wonky tape runner. Sometimes that happens, so it gets a little happy. All right, I'm not putting much along these edges, and the reason is because I may have to have a little room to tuck this inlay in a little, so I want to just make sure I can do that and not have to fight with any adhesive. So this one's easy. I'm going to come up to the edge of the page. And adhere down. I'm going to then dry fit these a little bit. So These would be coming up 1 inch from the bottom and 1 inch down from the top. Or so, roughly. And I'm wondering about even giving the edge on the gray a little inking to help it pop a little bit more. So for that, I'm going to use the gray flannel Memento Dewdrop ink. So this one is currently available on the website. It came out with the Winter Bliss collection. So I think I'm just going to give, just like we did with the first page, just going to give some light inking along that ripped edge to kind of make it pull out a little bit more and see it, just because the Spargo is a little, it's very tonal, it's very neutral. And then the inlay print I picked intentionally to be that light because, I want my colors or my photos to really kind of be more in that foreground. So I'm just going to ink the edges as well. I think it's a nice effect overall. And so again, this is an optional step. You don't have to. But I am. Now I'm going to just lightly reposition this. I think, yeah, that'll be really nice there to pull from the inlay paper. And I think I'm going to actually get that slightly tucked under so you can really see it. It does kind of come out a little bit from the edge there, which I'm probably thinking I will edge that with the ink as well. But I might not. I'm going to put this in because I'm not going to edge the pink one. I don't think. Though maybe I should. Why not? When in Rome, right? And I'm going to use the same gray as a tonal to kind of match the the gray side piece and then the gray embellishments that we have, or the gray border punches that we used. So again, I'm just lightly going over just the edges. I'm not getting too, not like I did in the other one. Okay, and then look at this one. I don't think I need to edge all sides because one's getting a little tucked under and then the other two are going to get slightly overlaid. So not gonna really worry too much about that. And so I think that was a really good idea, because as we dry fit again, we can see it's just things are popping a bit better or a bit more. So I really kind of like that. I'll zoom in a little bit so you guys can see that some more. Bring this down. I'll zoom in some more for you. Okay. So let's reposition the page here. So I need my inlay to come in at that 9" and 3" mark there. So I'll get my adhesive on. I'm gonna get this side slightly tucked under. Gonna come down. That 9 and 3 spot. I'm just gonna lightly put that there. Get my borders with some adhesive now. I'm just gonna come up just ever slightly on the bottom there, covering that edge. Oops, everything's moving now. Everything's moving on me. It's just because I didn't put that down a little bit more. There we go. Just want to make sure it's as straight as I can have it. Get my top one. Cool. Now let's get the other one done before we do our picks. Oops, forgot to do my inking. Gotta ink this whole side now. So we'll do that first. Get all of our inking out of the way. Alrighty. I just need one side of my inlay here. And I'm not worried. I know I got a little schmutz there. I'm not worried about that, really. Adds character, and it's probably going to get a little covered by by everything anyway with the borders. So now I'm going to get my adhesive going. And so then remember, I'm flipping this over to the opposite side here. Make sure I got the right, yep, okay. Oops, that's repo. I generally will use regular adhesive for putting my papers down and my photos, and I usually use repo for my border cutouts and embellishments. So I know some folks like to use repo for as pretty much all the time, and that's okay too. Whatever works. So this one I can bring out a bit more, but I kind of want to make it similar to the other as much as possible because I want them mirrored. Oops, it moved. There we go. Get border one. Oh, I keep grabbing the wrong one. And that should, and sometimes I will do this just to make sure I'm in alignment with a mirrored 2-page spread so that I can make sure that it looks pretty consistent across. Okay. Last one. Okay, that's good. Actually get all my adhesive on. Okay. So now I have my 2 pages here. Zoom out a bit. See both together. So now I got my photos. So in the sketch, right, it's giving us our title up here in the top left with, you know, oh, sorry. It's flipped, right? So we'll look at the right-hand side because that's the one the sketch looks most like. Title up here in the top left with photo embellishments, some journaling here, and then 2 additional 3.5 by 5.5 photos here. So I don't have those exact photo sizes. I have what I have. So so what I'm going to do with my pictures, because for this layout, this was us, you know, our traveling essentially from the Indianapolis airport we had quite a long line when we got there to Fort Lauderdale. We went the day before, just so that we could be there. We wouldn't have to rush around, make sure that we didn't miss the boat, right? And so I've got a picture from our hotel room, the view, our hotel that we stayed at, and, you know, the hotel card. Just some, you know, fun little memorabilia that I tend to just take. So I'm thinking something along the lines of this. Maybe. Or maybe I will kind of make the card its own kind of little embellishment in the middle there. So what I might just do, I know that I want my photos in that placement. I might hold off on that to my, I don't know. I'm not entirely sold on it yet. So let's at least get the ones that we know down. And so again, right, I mentioned in my previous video that I'm a fan of the double matte now. So I love putting the white matte on top of the colored. But the photo, I usually find that it makes everything just really give a nice pop. It's a little bit elegant in that sense. And so you'll notice what I did for these is that I used the deco blade again, because I wanted to kind of keep with that torn paper motif, but I didn't want to tear cardstock. Not that I'm opposed to it, I just didn't want to. So I looked to my decorative trimmer because it's a lot easier. And once again, right, we've got decal giving us a nice torn type of feel. No, I want to go this way, yeah. So I went with the cool gray cardstock to coordinate with the that best gradient black, which is a gray, really a gray print, and would coordinate with the border punches. Because I was thinking, well, what if I had something that matched this coral type color? Would also work nicely, I think. However, the only one I have that I thought went very well was an old one called Blush, and I only have one sheet of it right now, and so I have to keep that. I have to keep that one because I'm working on another project that I might need it for. So, and I don't, I have to go hunting for it to get it for some more, and I just didn't want to hold up much of the process, so I decided I'll go with the cool gray. But you could certainly, because I thought having the coral, or that coral color on the two main pictures on the side here would be a nice contrast with the gray for the others. But it was not meant to be, and that's just what it is. But I like this anyway because I didn't want it to have too much of that pink feel in there. Like I had mentioned in my previous video, not much of a pink purple color person. Don't get me wrong, they're great colors. I enjoy them. I just don't really use them a lot in my projects. So I don't really have an array of pinks and purples to use. So I just wanted to kind of ground it more in some of that gray that we have here. So I will figure out these pieces. Oh, maybe that will work. Hang on. Maybe I just figured it out. Maybe. So there we have it. We put together a double page spread of the December 2025 Creative Memories Virtual Crop Sketch 2. Using that torn paper technique that I'm going to pull throughout this entire project. I would give us a little bit of a sneak peek of what the next one's going to be. I just haven't decided on that yet. It's probably another title page because when I'm looking at the flow of things, I've got a dinner that is using a different layout, like I had mentioned, somebody else's layout that I can't necessarily showcase doing. And then I'm going to get into our destinations. So that first one being Half Moon Key. So it's probably going to be a title page where I'm going to probably most likely use the other side of my tearing tool because this gives us a nice wave type. I've got a sample here, nice wave-like feel. So it'll be, with the paper I'm going to use, it'll be good. We'll see. But thanks for joining and following along. Hope you're having fun. Hope you're getting some great ideas. You know, if you're kind of following along using different collection or different things, by all means, share. Feel free to share on the page, whatever you'd like to. And if you need anything, tips or advice or supplies, definitely reach out to your favorite advisor. Feel free to reach out to me. Contact and links are in the description below. And I will see you again next time. So happy scrapping.